This is digitaltoolsforarchitects.com, Photoshop 1.8, merging HDR images. And so what I have, this is about processing high dynamic range images. If you're curious about high dynamic range images in general, it'd be worth looking at my lecture on high dynamic range images, which this year in 2013 is lecture number 7. And so if you kind of want to see example images and that sort of thing, run over to the digitaltoolsforarchitects.com website, look under lectures, and then fall 2013, and you can see lecture 7, which is all about high dynamic range photography. But for right now, we're going to talk about processing high dynamic range images in Photoshop. And so the first thing that I need to do is I need to merge my images together using Photoshop. And so what I'll do is I'll come up to the File menu, and this is going to be under Automate because it's something that is an automatic action in Photoshop. And I'm going to come down here is to Merge to HDR Pro. And so I'll go ahead and click OK. Right? And so then it'll ask me to browse for my particular images. So I'll go ahead and click on Browse, and I have an HDR sample 01 that I'm going to load up. It's 3 images that are bracketed. You could do this with 7 images or more. My camera has the ability to shoot 3 bracketed images, therefore that's what I'm going to go ahead and work with today. So it's those 3 images, and I'll go ahead and click Open. And you'll see that those files will show up right here in my Merge to HDR dialog box. And so I'll go ahead and click OK. And now it's going to attempt to align those images together. And so when it comes through here, we have to hold on for a second for Photoshop to finish. I'll get the Merge to HDR dialog box, and this allows me to do some adjustments. And so what I'll do is I'll select that I want to keep it in 32-bit, which gives me a little bit less control over my overall image. But we're going to do some processing after the fact down the road. And so I'll show you that in just a second. This allows me to adjust the overall lightness or darkness of the particular image. I'll pick something that looks reasonable. And so I'll go ahead and click that, and we'll say OK. And it'll finish making the HDR image. Perfect. And so that'll show up here on my background layer. There's the HDR image. Now, it's not the best looking image in the world, and it is in 32-bit. And you saw that I elected to keep it in 32-bit. Notice that it has 32-bit with a little star next to it. And that's because computer monitors and other image formats, we can't really see 32 bits of information about the particular image. And so we need to convert that back down. And I'm doing this later because I want a little bit finer control over what I'm going to do. And so what I'll do is I'll come up to Image, and I'm going to go to Mode, and I'm going to change to 16 bits per channel. And when I do that, I have a variety of options that are here. And so I'm going to select on making sure that this is local adaptations. Notice that I can adjust for exposure and gamma. I could adjust for highlight compression. I could equalize the histogram. And I could do local adaptation. Local adaptation gives me the best options for what I'm trying to do. And so from here, I can also see my toning and curve histogram, which you'll see here. And that's actually what I'm going to work with. In that I'm going to set a point right here at the baseline to pull it all the way over to there. And I'm also going to adjust this back as necessary. Now this image is already fairly well figured out, so I don't have to move it back too far. I have a pure white point, but I'll adjust that black point over so that I have a little bit better results. And so I'll go ahead and say OK when it's done. And this gives me the high dynamic range at a 16-bit color depth. And so once I've got that, I can go ahead and say File Save As or File Save for Web. So either Save As or Save for Web as my final image. Now, this is in no way kind of my finalized image. I would do some post-processing to this image afterward. And ideally, I would actually work through some masks. So go ahead and flip forward to Photoshop 1.10, which will have to do with creating masks on a particular image. So that's it. This is digitaltoolsforarchitects.com, and this was Photoshop tutorial 1.8, merging HDR images.